Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Some people recognize me, some people I don't recognize. But nice to see you all anyway. Want to do an introduction? Or should I just begin? There's another introduction.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Some we do know and some we don't know, as far as I said. Some of you for the first time, welcome. Thank you very much for coming. Today we have the good fortune, I think, to receive His Holiness Prabhupada Swami. He is used to be GBC to this area. He is an initiating guru, sannyasi, disciple of Prabhupada. Was in the movement since he was young in college. And he met Prabhupada. I was fortunate enough to have him and have his association all this time as he travels. So I'd like you to say hello, Hare Krishna, to Maharaj,
Hare
and a loud welcome. Thank you, Maharaj.
This is one of our ISKCON rituals, the garland. Hare Krishna. It's been a long time since there's an echo. You, I'll stop it.
It should be good.
It should be good now. Okay. Okay, the echo's gone. There was a time before pandemic that high schools especially, and also some college classes that have a class in world religion or something like that, they like to come to our temples. All over the country, the places where I've been. And there's still an echo. What to do?
No, it's not that.
Okay. So the time that they like to come, this has nothing to do with this evening's topic. The time that they like to come is when we do what they consider to be our rituals. Because I learned this from them, that their teacher often makes distinctions between this religion, that religion, another religion, based upon their rituals. And that's how they distinguish, that's how they train the students, how you distinguish this from that. It's the rituals. So it's like the iceberg, it's the tip of the iceberg. They don't teach so much the values and the culture, they teach the behaviors. So they come when we do our rituals. And so the garland ritual is one of our ISKCON rituals. So they like to come just before greeting the deities, which is not a bad time to come. You know, it's 7 o'clock in most of our temples, and so it's doable for high school kids. But lots of ritual. Ooh, blowing up the conch shell. And then the curtain opens, and then they go into songs, Chamuna singing and instrument music. You know, it's another ritual. Everybody bows down, another ritual. And then the bell and the incense, another ritual, and moves from altar to altar, and the devotees go from altar to altar, and then we go back and have another ritual before the Prabhupada's Vyasa. So they want it all about our rituals, because that's who we are, it's our rituals, as far as they're concerned. There's obviously much behind the rituals, and in this topic, some of you know what the topic is, some of you may not know. There's the title, Madhurya Kadambini, and the translation in English is sometimes translated as a cloud bank of nectar. Kadambini, Madhurya Kadambini, cloud bank of nectar. So the chapters are considered showers of nectar. Shower 1, shower 2, showers of nectar from the cloud bank of nectar. The author is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was the guru and instructor of the devotee in our disciplic line who Prabhupada dedicated his Bhagavad Gita commentary to, Baladev Vidya Goswami, who also wrote the commentary on Vedanta Sutra on behalf of this disciplic session. So his teacher was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And many nice things, but so this is part 3. I'll just quickly go through what we did so far. The book, Madhurya Kadambini, is an explanation of Rupa Goswami's writing of 1 or 2 verses in Nectar Devotion or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that indicates the 9 processes of bhakti. So many of you know what those 9 processes are. Here they are on the screen. The preliminary stage of bhakti, the seed is the shraddha, the stage where there's preliminary faith, and then it unfolds. Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, those are the first 3. And so far we got through much of the Sadhu Sangha, the Bhajana Kriya stage. So here's the list, these 9, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, and we'll start to discuss today anarthas vritti, and then nishtha. Nishtha means steady. So this very advanced stage of bhakti is where the anarthas or unwanted things. Artha means something wanted, and anartha means the opposite, something unwanted. Commonly, for example, there's the sequence Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Any of you here not familiar with what that is? Dharma, you're not familiar? You're familiar. Okay. Dharma, religiosity. Many people do with religious duties because they understand that piety that they get is going to gain for them some fruits of piety. That's called artha. And the fruits of piety or artha has some, it's often another meaning is economic development. Artha. And the reason for economic development or fruits of pious activities is kama, or to enjoy. And then the final is moksha, liberation. So artha commonly means something that people want. And commonly people want something material. So it's commonly thought of as something material, artha. And anartha is eradication of those unwanted things, subtle things within the heart. So I'm spending a little bit of time because that's what we're going to be discussing. So far, we've discussed the Sadhu Sangha and Bhajana Kriya parts. Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and Prema are the remaining 4. And that's going to come at the end of all of this book in this series. There's a nice chart. And did any of you receive this chart? Yes. Oh, good. Any of you did not receive this chart? Because he can make sure that you get it. So let Kishore know, and he'll send it to you. It's a PDF, and it has different parts. It's a drawing. It's a graphic design meant to show the 9 stages of bhakti. And the bhakti is compared to a lata, which means a creeper or a vine. And it grows and grows and grows, but it starts. So the first chapter, or first shower of nectar, was how does bhakti begin? And it goes through different, it can't begin this way, that way, the other way, very logical sequence. Bhakti creates bhakti. We spent some time on that topic. Bhakti is already within, but it becomes awakened by contact with someone who's carrying bhakti. So you can be a good bhakti infector. Like people transmit diseases, you can transmit bhakti if you're carrying bhakti. And this section is what we covered so far. So all I'm doing right now is a little bit of review of the first two classes. It's a creeper, the bottom part of the drawing. And there you see the heart, the field of the heart that starts in the heart. And in the heart, there's already existing faith. That is to say, faith is intrinsic to the soul. This is review. But everyone has faith in something. And if they don't have faith in this, they have faith in that. They don't have faith in that, and something else. Because faith is intrinsic to the soul. And the original character of faith is faith in the Supreme, in our relationship with the Supreme, but that has become covered, and therefore we have faith in other stuff. Other attainments, or what the definition of happiness is, or definition of success is, etc., etc. So that faith in the Supreme becomes awakened as the first stage, that's the seed, by sadhu sangha. So you can see. That little laser pointer. There's Shraddha, and it says, awakening of faith. So it's like a seed is dormant, and it can stay dormant for years and years and years and years and years and years. There's life inside the seed, but it has to be sprouted. So the sprouting of the faith in the Supreme arises when there's sadhu sangha, at least the possibility is there. Just like water and sunlight, you can sprout a seed. Similarly with sadhu sangha, the sound vibration and the association and service unto sadhus can result in the awakening of faith. So that's the first two. Shraddha, sadhu sangha. And then we see on the left and the right, the next, or the stage that comes from sadhu sangha, is the awakening of these two leaves, like a little sprout comes out of the ground and poof, two little leaves. First thing that shows itself. So these two leaves is likened as a metaphor of the creeper of bhakti. And on the one side is kleshagni, which means the eradication of kleshas or sufferings or miseries. And there's different types of miseries. So I'm not going to go through them all because we did it already. You can hear the recording if you want. But there's miseries of 4 types. And they have 4 different categories of sources of misery. And then on the right side, another leaf, that's the awakening of auspiciousness, or bhakti itself. Bhakti is a description of what bhakti is. Bhakti awakens natural qualities that are of the soul, and Krishna decorates the soul with nice qualities. So those are 2 things. The sufferings diminish, eventually eradicated, and the good qualities, good character, auspiciousness is bestowed by bhakti upon the bhakta, the practitioner of bhakti. So that's what we covered so far. And now, hopefully, we're going to go on to the next There we go. So we didn't complete chapter 2. That's as far as we got in chapter 2. Divisions of Bhajana Kriya. Now you're going to see that chart again. Here's Bhajana Kriya going across. Bhajana Kriya. So Bhajana Kriya is what happens when you get together with sadhus. What do? You do what sadhus do. That's what you do. What do sadhus do? They do bhajan. What's bhajan? Devotional practices. Kriya means activity. Activity of devotional practice. Bhajan Kriya. And as you see in the chart, there's 6 different practices of devotional service that are characteristic of an immature stage of devotional practice. So that's what we're about to hear. The immature beginnings of devotional practice, Bhajana Kriya. There's steady and there's unsteady. Nishtita, you put the prefix A in front of it, makes it negative, not steady or unsteady. And there are symptoms and sequence. This is what we're going to be discussing. Utsaha Mayi. Utsaha is the word means enthusiasm. Some of you know nectar devotion, should be nectar instruction. Utsahandishchaya dharya tata karma pravartana. Utsaha means enthusiasm. So when there's enthusiasm, that's illusory. The example that the author, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, gives is a young student. He comes into the classroom, a new guy in the classroom, and he's already mastered everything, just ask him. So it's a false enthusiasm. One time I was listening to a recording of Bhakti Chaitanya Swami giving a seminar on this same topic. He was a wonderful speaker, by the way, makes everything really easy. So he told a little story of one time, he wasn't there, but George Harrison came to pay a visit to the Bhaktivedanta Manor. The Bhaktivedanta Manor is like a very posh property in a very exclusive neighborhood in the suburbs of London. So he came in a big limousine, and as it happens in London, sometimes there's rain. So there's a big puddle as he was getting out of the limousine, and one brahmachari went and paid full obeisances right in the puddle. And that was his example of utsahamai, false enthusiasm. And he said, George said, you didn't have to do that. Utsahamai. And after that utsaha or false enthusiasm passes, then it goes into the sporadic, sometimes not, sometimes not. These are sequential. Sometimes enthusiastic, sometimes lax. Maybe you've seen that in yourself, maybe you've seen that in other people. But so don't worry, it's just a stage of the unfolding of bhajana, kriya, in the not yet steady stage of bhajana kriya. And then next comes vyudha vikalpa. Vyudha vikalpa means indecision. Vacillating back and forth between this option and that option, between this option and that option, and this option and that option. And it keeps somehow going on with no end. This option, that option. The classic example that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is a young man deciding whether he should become married or remain a brahmachari. Or, you know, I've seen it with some, should I have this career path or that career path? That's a big one for younger generation people these days. Should I, you know, sometimes leaning this way, sometimes. So being very indecisive. And being indecisive in bhakti makes one more indecisive in everything else. So if you want to become more decisive in everything else, become more decisive in bhakti. Because it'll help you be more decisive in everything else. It means you can see things with clearer vision. Your discerning faculty gets sharper and stronger. It doesn't mean you immediately know everything, but it makes it easier to make prudent and wise decisions. So, Vyudha Vikalpa, that's the third of the unsteadiness. Then there's two that are just kind of the opposite. Vishaya, Sangara. Vishaya, that word is used in Bhagavad Gita. Vishaya Danivartante Nirahasya Dehina. For those who are Dehi, those who have bodies, it's very difficult sometimes to give up Vishaya. What's Vishaya? Indulging the senses and sense objects. Or doing things that are detrimental or unwholesome. Maybe, some things go quickly, but maybe some other things don't go so quickly. And when those things don't go so quickly, and they continue to linger, in fact, that's a stage of unsteady bhakti. It's a symptom, a stage. And then its counterpart is things that are beneficial. Yeah, I don't uphold things that I know that are beneficial for me. Like, here's a nice example. A nice example is what you do on the Ekadasi days. Did anybody here not know what Ekadasi is? Okay. Ekadasi, fine, no problem. Ekadasi, Eka, Dasa, 1 and 11, 1 and 10. 1 plus 10 equals 11. So after the full moon, count 11 days, that's an Ekadasi. And then after the new moon, count 11 days, that's another Ekadasi. So every month, by lunar calendar, there's 2 Ekadasis. 11 days after the full moon, 11 days after the new moon. And it's said, according to Vedic tradition, all the Vedas teach this, Ekadasi is a very beneficial day. Very beneficial day for anything spiritual. So some persons who get that understanding, and there's some encouragement to either one of 2 things or both. Decrease material, increase spiritual. On Ekadasi day, this is especially, it's going that direction. Your life is good, and it's especially beneficial to do something, have some kind of a vow or practice that you observe on Ekadasi days. So to do something beneficial, that's one of these. The whole time, on Ekadasi days, I want to something. I want to recite a chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Or I want to chant an extra, some 2 rounds or 4 rounds or something. Or I want to then do without something. The standard for Vaishnavas, all over the world, Vaishnavas, not just our tradition, Vaishnavas, fasting, minimally fasting from beans and grains. There's a whole story behind that, so I won't go into it. But that much fasting. So fruits, vegetables, milk, other things, but no beans and grains. But supposing I decide I want to do something a little bit more than that. That doing without and then increasing in some spiritual activity. Now it's nice. However, at the stage of unsteadiness, because that's what this topic is, Anushtita Bhakti, is I don't uphold the vows. And I don't give up some detrimental things or things that are on the distracting side. Maybe there's nobody here that wastes time on their phone. But many people waste time. And they know that it's a time waster. And it has a dopamine effect, which means it becomes addictive. Time wasting on games and stuff without listing it all. So if I know it's detrimental, I want to give it up. But supposing I don't give it up. It's a stage or characteristic of unsteadiness. Is it possible to give it up? Yes. And there's ways to give it up besides just stop it altogether, and it's just, anyways, without going into it. There are these 5 stages of unsteadiness. And on the other side of these 5 stages of unsteadiness is steadiness. Nishtata. So there's 2 types, unsteady, and then when it becomes mature, it becomes steady. And now the 6th is Tarangarangani. Tarangarangani means Ranga means waves. Some of you know about the temple in South India, that the presiding deity is Ranganath. Yes? Yes. Who knows that deity, Lord Ranganath? Very celebrated deity. And what it means is he is the Lord of the waves. Ranganath. That means Lord Vishnu, who is reclining on the Garbhodak ocean or the Kshirodak ocean, and he's reclining on those waves on the bed of Anantashesh, Ranganath. And then so Rangini is a diminutive term, means small waves. Ranga and Rangini. So Taranga Rangini means to enjoy the small waves. Small waves of what? The small waves of material facilities that come your way by doing your bhakti nicely. What are some of those material waves? You get some praise. You get some worship. You get some honor, some distinction, some title. And one who becomes the enjoyer of those fruits of successfully performed bhakti, that's an obstacle. It's a cause of unsteadiness in bhakti. Name, Tarangarangani. So there's tonight, this is sequential, commonly. And the idea is, what's causing those is unwanted things in the heart. Unwanted things in the heart cause unsteadiness. And eradication of unwanted things brings one closer to steadiness. And now you see what's coming next is overcoming the unwanted things in the heart. That's the next section. So here's a little summary. Bhajana Kriya gives 2 of the qualities of pure devotional service. So let's step back. Some of you have read Nectar Devotion. Some of you have read Nectar Devotion. Okay. You'll find in Nectar Devotion, there's 3 stages of bhakti: the practice stage, the ecstatic stage, and the love of God stage. Sadhana, bhava, and prema. And there's 2 characteristics for each. The sadhana stage has 2, the bhava stage has 2, and the prema stage has 2. It makes 6. Right? 2 plus 2 plus 2. So the first 2, Bhajana Kriya gives 2 of the qualities of pure devotional service, not in their complete form, but to some degree. Relief of all distress. Well, that's the Kleshasmi. It's one of the leaves that unfurls as bhakti starts to manifest itself. And it awakens auspiciously. Auspiciousness. Shubha means auspicious. And Shubha Da, it means it gives auspiciousness or awakens auspiciousness. So that's the summary of what we heard so far. And now also summary, the I and mine, that's material, becomes more spiritualized. The sense of I moves more towards the spiritual side of who I am. And what is mine also moves more towards the side of Krishna. Material detachments commonly in the Bhajana Kriya stage, they're in full force. And their meditation upon the Supreme is unsteady, but sometimes there's little moments that I'm more focused on my chanting or my hearing or my remembering, my worshiping, sometimes. But significant tainted material topics. So that's the end of chapter 2. And I hope I did not a bad job in reviewing the first 2 chapters. Now we're in chapter 3, the third shower of nectar. And this is where most of us are, between Bhajana Kriya and this very prolonged business of eradication of unwanted things. Nivritti means to eradicate or to eliminate. Eliminate what? Anarthas. So again, what does anartha mean? Artha means something wanted, and anartha means something unwanted. So there are subtle things called anarthas within the heart of everyone. And the stage of bhakti where that's removed by bhakti itself is the anartha nivritti stage. So that's our topic. There's the verse that the whole book, Madhurya Kadambini, is based upon. It's a verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And you see the verse. There's this, we saw it before. Here it's in much bigger letters than before. And it's in yellow letters is the anartha nivritti. And just before anartha nivritti is Bhajana Kriya. And just before that is Sadhu Sangha. And just before that is Shraddha. So this is the 4th out of the sequence. And here's the translation of the whole verse. In the beginning, that's Adao, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. Sadhu Sangha. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, goes pretty quick, Bhajana Kriya. And under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. That's the Bhajana Kriya. By execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment. That's our topic for this second half of this class, the anartha nivritti. Let's see how long it runs. Okay, so you see at the bottom, some of you a little bit newer. So those of you that are a little bit newer, you probably know who the translator of Bhagavad Gita is, and our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Do you know this Srila Prabhupada? No? He is the teacher that it came to the West to give the chanting and Bhagavad Gita and all of this. Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. In the 1960s, and he left this world in 1977. So in just 12 years, he did this worldwide thing called the Hare Krishna movement. Very, very unique miracle in the history of spirituality, actually. So he had a spiritual master, and his name, you don't need to remember, but his name is Bhakti Siddhanta. And Bhakti Siddhanta's father, his name is pictured at the bottom here, it's Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So he lived around the late 1800s, in the very beginning part of the 1900s. That was the period of time that he lived. So he wrote 100 books. 100 books. Try writing a Vyasa Puja. It's, 100 books. And one of those books is named here at the bottom, Bhajana, the same word we heard before, Bhajana or Hasya, is the title of the book. So he, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the father of my spiritual master, wrote a book explaining this topic of bhajan. So again, I'll do it again because some people are unfamiliar with the terminology. Preliminary faith, association with sadhus, activities of devotion, bhajana priya. So he wrote a book, Bhajana Rahasya. It's like, the enjoyment that arises when one does devotional practice nicely. That's the meaning of the book. And here's a little passage. And it has some Sanskrit terms, so for newer people, just don't worry about the terms you don't understand. Bhakti Sukriti. Sukriti means piety. Sukriti means piety. There's piety that comes when one does bhakti or devotional service of some kind. To the Supreme Person, you do some devotional service, you get the fruits of piety. So due to that bhakti sukriti, one gets some faith. Specifically, he writes, faith in the devotional literatures, devotional texts that describe spiritual life and the goal and how to practice it and so on. So due to some merit, some pious merit that comes, or devotional merit that comes from some little devotional service, some faith may arise. And when that faith arises, that shraddha arises, then Krishna sends someone, a sadhu, a holy man, a holy person, holy lady, to help encourage you to go to the next step, little bit, next step. So that's what sadhus do. It's something like, what sadhus do is something like, they see a little spark, and very gently they fan the spark. This motion with my hand is something Prabhupada did. I'm just repeating. You see a spark, not too much. Gently you fan the spark. And what happens when you gently fan the spark is the spark may turn into a little flame. That's what sadhus do. So that little spark, that's the little faith. And when sadhus come, they fan that spark. And then what happens when you fan the spark, it becomes a little flame. That's called bhajana, or devotional activity. Bhajana priya, this third stage, devotional practice. And then as that devotional practice goes further, then there may be some instructions. Oh, that was very nice. Now, why don't you consider this? Why don't you consider that? And go the next little step, through shiksha. Shiksha means instructions, how to go the next step. And along with that next step commonly comes Nama Mantra Diksha. Nama Mantra Diksha means initiation. It's the same, what he's writing is the same as Prabhupada's translation of this verse that comes from Nectar Devotion or Bhakti Samrita Sindhu. That's the whole book. Why am I putting this here? It's another scriptural reference that says during the Bhajana Kriya stage, that's commonly where our acharyas explain, that's when the stage of initiation comes, and that's where the stage of fanning the spark comes. Instructions that can make the spark into a flame and make the flame grow to a larger flame, which includes the stage of initiation. Nama Diksha. Initiation is the chanting of the holy name. Another book, I'll repeat something that I said this morning. One of the procedures followed by a person like the author of this book to make declarative statements, and then to support his declarative statements, he supports the statements from statements from scripture. And then, number of statements, then he moves on to the next, in the sequence of where that takes you to. And then scriptural support and scriptural support. It's just a standard procedure. So that's what's going on here. There's another text written by Rupa Goswami, Nectar of Instruction, where he describes in text 7, if one is sincere, he is initiated, and this stage is called Bhajana Kriya. One then actually engages in the service of the Lord. So that's what Bhajana Kriya is. Those two things, or three things. That is, one received instruction, one takes initiation, one engages in service. 1, 2, 3. That's the Bhajana Kriya stage. By Bhajana Kriya, one attains freedom from the contamination of materialistic life. That's the statement of Nectar Devotion, and that's the same statement as this book, these two leaves, Kleshagni and Shubhata. The first two things that happen when you begin devotional practice. Is anybody lost, and would should I go back and do it again, or should I want to discuss something, or should I keep going? I'll keep going. Hey, look, here's this chart again, or graphic. So there's the Bhajana Kriya, and we discussed these 6 that go across the bottom. And now we're going to move into the anarthas stage. More specifically, there's 4 categories of from where do anarthas arise. What's anarthas? Something that's unwanted within the heart, something subtle. There's the anarthas stage, the clearing away of unwanted things. And he explains, the author, that this anarthas extends and extends and extends and extends and extends and extends. So it's not just a bucket, but it's a stage that also grows and matures and becomes more complete and more complete and more complete as one progresses spiritually. So what's the source of these unwanted things? That's a good question. Because if I know where the source is and I can stop the source, then I can stop the unwanted things. So he indicates in this book, there's 4 sources. Sinful activities, that's easy to understand. From pious activities, that's not so easy to understand. What's unwanted things that arise from pious activities? It's easy. The fruits of piety and trying to be the enjoyer of the fruits of piety. that blocks bhakti. It may not block your enjoying fruits of piety, may not stop you from, just the idea is not to stop piety, it's to stop trying to be the enjoyer of the fruits of piety. Most of you know, well, almost all of you know, who is Queen Kunti. And for the one amongst us that doesn't know who is Queen Kunti, I'll explain. Bhagavad Gita, yes, Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. Krishna is the speaker, Arjuna was the student. Arjuna had a mother, and she was super lady. Her name was Kunti. And she, like Arjuna, she was very deeply attached to Krishna. Pure soul. And at a certain point in time, Krishna had been with them for some time, and then Krishna was going to leave to go back to his capital city. And she was like, don't go. She didn't say don't go, but she said don't go. In so many words. And one of the things that Kunti said is, the fruits of piety are for high birth, being wealthy, beautiful, being famous. And those four, when one becomes enamored by those four, it totally blocks bhakti. So I don't want those four, I want you. But she was already wealthy and famous, and she had all those things. But she is saying, I don't want those things, to the degree that they obscure, they block my opportunity to be with you and have loving dealings with you. So something unwanted is not exactly the pious activity or the fruits of the pious activities, but the potential of trying to be the enjoyer of those. We'll see this again. There's anarthas, or unwanted things that arise from offenses, and there's bhakti successfully performed. We saw that before, Turungarangani. Remember that phrase? Small waves, enjoying the small waves. This is like a more mature stage of those small waves. They get a little bigger. And one gets lots of attention, or lots of respect, or lots of titles, or lots of something, accolades, and something. And you may think this is very nice. My bhakti is now successful because I'm getting all these things. And being the enjoyer of those things can be an obstacle, or something unwanted in the heart. It's subtle. Now, what's going on here, you notice the background is different. And it's purposeful. The background is different because these are notes taken directly from a presentation made by Bhanu Swami, who translated this book, and then gave a seminar on the book that he translated. And these are his notes. He kindly provided his notes. I'm giving credit to him. But there's this Bhajana Kriya stage. It's a graphic chart saying the same thing that we've already done. There's the unsteady, and there's the steady. They're both in the category of Bhajana Kriya, and these stages move from unsteady to steady in the following sequence. Unsteady, devotional service. In between, there's this anartha nivritti, that's eradication of unwanted things from the heart, or unwanted habits, or things that are unwanted in general, subtle things. And that can lead one to the steady stage, where all that is troublesome in the heart is almost destroyed to nil. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur includes these two verses, and because you're going to see this slide looking differently again, I'm going to go through it quickly. But some of you are familiar with Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2. These are two verses in that very profound chapter describing the anishtata and nishtha stage. So I'm not going to go through them, in part because many of you already know. And these are classes unto themselves to explain these two verses because they're very important verses. But both have to do with unwanted material desires in the heart, start to become destroyed, but not completely destroyed. The second verse is they're almost completely destroyed. What does that mean? It's the nishtha stage. Nashta prayeshu, abhadreshu. Prayeshu means almost destroyed. Nashta is destroyed. Prayeshu is not there yet completely. But it's an intermediate stage. It's not the topmost, but it's an intermediate stage. Nishtha stage. Some residue, as it says at the bottom, some residue of impurity is still there in the heart. It's a stage. And that's what we're discussing. The inauspicious things are eradicated. The general idea is cessation of unwanted desires. Nivritti means to cease. And anartha means things that are unwanted desires. And so it's saying there are four kinds. What are the four kinds? So we'll spend a little bit of time. It's in that chart or that graphic design. Most of you have received it already. And those of you that didn't yet receive it, you're going to speak to Prem Kishore and he'll make sure you get a copy. And the first of them, these little blocking. So the dushkriti, it means sinful. So there are unwanted things in the heart that arise from sinful activities. Now, if someone doesn't know what's not to be done and they do, it's not the same as they know what's not to be done and they do it anyways. If they know what's not to be done and they do it anyways, that's weakness of the heart. And it's a nice Sanskrit term. Hridaya means the heart. Dor balyam. Bala means strength, and dor balyam means weakness. Not much strength. Dor balyam. Hridaya, dor balyam. And this has some nice items that make it up. 4. Tucha. Even sounds like what it means, like a sound of spitting or something. To be attracted to insignificant things. Tucha. Or to pretend or deceive others. Putinati. Or vatsarya, to envy, or sampratishtato, the desire for those subtle things, fame, position, recognition, honor from others. That all these 4 arise from sinful activities. A nice little statement at the bottom here. I'll read it slowly. The bad effects of material attachment, such as envy, pride, anger, greed, lamentation, ignorance, attachment, which in turn cause various distresses, because you have any one of those and it's distressful. They're born from sinful activities. And they arise from not only impious activities, but sins. And the last, at the bottom here, hopefully show up. The other 3, that's Putinati, Vatsarya, etc., they are byproducts of the first one. What does byproduct of the first one mean? You know, first comes this attraction to insignificant things, and then there's corollaries or things that arise from that one. And the idea is that these are characteristics of unsteady bhakti, that of the particular anartha or unwanted thing in the heart that causes unsteadiness in bhakti. Bhakti has the power to eradicate that. But the weakness of heart has to have something on the other side of the pan scale. And what the other thing on the other side of the pan scale is some determination. And something that helps determination is good association, sadhu sangha. Yes? So let's just picture in your mind for a moment that nice graphic chart. And we're at the stage of anartha nirviti. And one of the categories of anarthas that arise from sinful activities is being described. Next is the description of, oops. Okay. So then there's anarthas that arise from pious activities. There's the whole chart. Anarthas that arise from pious activities. That is thirst. Krishna means thirst for asat, things not spiritual. So there's different kinds of not spiritual things, starting from gross, and then it becomes more subtle. Not spiritual things are material things, gross material things, or becoming attracted to the fruits of piety, like attaining heaven. That's a big one. In the world of theism, it's a big one. People do something because they want piety, and the fruits of that piety, as far as they're concerned, is like, you know, the maximum that you go to heaven. And what's there in heaven? Enjoyment, heavenly enjoyment, long duration of life and opulence that's hundreds of thousands of times greater than this opulence. So I'll do some piety and piety and piety with the hopes that I'll go to that good place and enjoy it. So that's a type of anartha arising from pious deeds. Or there are others, their goal is not attaining the heavenly planets. Their goal is getting mystic powers. Some people. No, that's not the waiting line isn't a big waiting line. But there are some people that's what they want. And the allure for them, the distraction from making their heart pure, etc., is this mystic city, which is a material thing. It's a material thing. Here's an example. One of the mystic powers is being able to travel without a spacecraft. You know, the common one is flying on a magic carpet, or being able to transport oneself from one place to another place. Poof. There are yogis that can do this. They take bath in the 4 directions of the subcontinent of India within an hour by that mystic power. They dip in the water over here and immerse in the water over there. Poof. And it's a mystic power. You know, the space becomes insignificant by their mystic power. And sometimes it's not just like very pious men. Some of you know from Ramayana who Sugriva's brother was. Sugriva's brother was Bali. So many of you don't know these people, but he wasn't a good guy. But he had that mystic power. Every day he took bath in the 4 directions. One time when Ravana came to have combat with him, he wasn't around because he was taking his morning bath in the 4 directions. He came back all wet. He told me you have to wait after you dry off. But anyway, so it's a material aspiration to have mystic powers without belaboring the point. It's not ordinary, but it's still material. Or the 5 types of liberation. There's a verse, bhakti means sense gratification. Mukti, liberation. Siddhi means mystic powers. Bhakti, mukti, siddhi, kami, sakale ashanta. One's mind becomes ashanta, or not peaceful, being agitated by these 3 things. The first one is bhakti. The third one is siddhi. And the 4th one is mukti. They're material. Thirst for non-spiritual things. Craving for some temporary sensual pleasure is also detrimental desire in the heart, stemming from pious activities. So pious activities may facilitate. So that's a second category of unwanted things that may exist in the heart that one needs to overcome to come to the stage of steady. Clear? It's clear. So now let's move on to number 3. Hopefully, 3 computers can cooperate. There we go. This is the category of offense. Anarthas arising from offense. So there's categories of offense. And the most serious one is on the far left. That's nam aparad. And what, we could spend a couple of days on that one, but we're not. But it's an important topic. Seva aparad, Vaishnava aparad, Jiva aparad. They're obstructions on the path of devotional service. So the idea over here on the left side, the most serious one is namaparad, and the goal to overcome namaparad is to come through pure chanting of the holy name. A long topic, and I'm going to move along, despite it's a very important topic. Then finally is this 4th category, where there's anarthas arising from devotional service. Now we heard already, there's fruits that come from successfully performed devotional service. This explanation, Bhanu Swami's explanation, that is also right from Madhurya Kadambini, explains this additional category, which is Vid Brahma, or mistake, in Tattva, mistaken grasp of who I am, who the Supreme is, what the practice of proper devotional activity is, and what the mistake, what the goal is. You see them listed here. I'm moving quickly because I'm a little anxious about time. And, you may get tired of hearing from me. Very important topic. Anarthas arising from sinful activities, anarthas arising from pious activities, anarthas arising from offenses, anarthas arising from bhakti that may be nicely performed, but then I end up with the wrong conceptions. So here's a nice verse that's cited by the author from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11. One who accepts this process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality Godhead will never blunder on his path in this world if he intentionally closes his eyes and runs. Still, he will never stumble or fall. No, doesn't mean you close your eyes, you become a nice devotee, close your eyes and run, you won't fall. It's a metaphor that even if you're not fully attentive to all rules and regulations, the procedures, etc. But on the other hand, you're very dedicated to the process of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You won't be faulted for that. That's the meaning. Here's the explanation. Anyone who, due to wholeheartedly and enthusiastically taking up Bhagavat Dharma, unintentionally acts contrary to the rules of devotional practices, such a devotee still does not incur sin, nor is his advancement deprecated. That's the meaning. So he wants us to understand, the author wants to understand the primary importance of bhakti and the secondary relationship between rules and regulations. The essence is not the rules and regulations. Rules and regulations are important and we should follow them. But the essence is the purpose, the intention of trying to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So anarthas arising from bhakti successfully performed, we've already discussed. Material wealth, worship, respect, position, and fame. Lama puja pratishtha. Now, I think I'm going to end because there's too much to cover. I'm going to move this over till tomorrow's class. The Namaparat section is a big section, but it's in the category one of the sources is offense, and the most serious of all the offenses is the offense against the holy name and learning what they are. There's somebody I know, Hari Parshad Prabhu was giving a seminar just now on the 10 offenses against the chanting of holy name, and he's given two-hour classes. That's 4 hours. He's covered 4 of the 10 offenses so far. It's a big topic. It's an important topic. So I don't know how to do it running, 100-yard dash, because it wouldn't do justice to the topic. But it's very important. It can, done properly, chanting of the holy name can clear all the other things. Not done properly, you'll have great difficulty advancing and progressing in spiritual life. Guaranteed. So that's a little bit about the 4th stage, the Anarthas Vritti stage. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, Adau Shraddha, preliminary faith. 2, Sadhu Sangha, association with devotees who can help awaken that faith. 3, Bhajana Kriya, you do things with those devotees that devotees do, devotional practice. That's easy. Then through that devotional practice, removal of unwanted things. And it's gradual and sequential and so forth. And there's stages and there's more to go in this chapter tomorrow. Any comments or questions? See one hand immediately. Here, we have a portable microphone.
Have a loud voice.
Yeah, there's a microphone that will help your loud voice. Uh-oh, there's some ringback. Narottam, you're going to fix the ringback, right? Okay, try again.
How do such nice detailed classes relates to a lot of questions? And I'll ask one to start with.
Okay.
We're talking about steadiness and unsteadiness. Isn't it possible to be steady externally and at the same time be unsteady internally?
Oh, yeah.
So that would be considered part of what I said.
Yeah.
Like unsteadiness and consciousness.
Yeah. However, the unsteady internally will result in unsteady externally after some time. Your question was, is it possible to be steady on the outside and unsteady on the inside? The answer is yes. But after some time, the unsteady inside is going to play out.
was thinking of the experience of chanting the Holy Name. And someone may be able to chant 16 rounds, and for many, many years, and still be unsteadying the conduct of people in repentance.
Yeah,
So not necessarily to give up the chanting, but the unsteadiness.
well, yeah. But what I said doesn't change what I said. You know, what happens, something will come because what's inside comes out. And something will come that will disrupt the steadiness outside. And so, therefore, one who's trying to overcome the unsteadiness inside should persevere in trying to overcome the unsteadiness, that's the anarthas, strive to overcome and come to the stage of pure inside, along with steadiness of practice outside. Because if that doesn't happen, then there's going to be a break at some point. The steadiness outside is going to break at some point. Anything else? Because he's got a whole stack of questions if you don't have anything else. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just had a question on top of that, because the study inside, right? The studying outside is okay, but the the unsteadiness inside, will it burst out eventually? That's what.
Well, not necessarily. Let's do it might and it might not. And here's where it might not. Where it might not is there's unsteadiness inside. And I'm honest and I recognize, because I'm being honest with myself, that I'm introspective and honest with myself. There's unsteadiness going on. And I recognize it. And I want to overcome that unsteadiness inside. That's an operative principle. And so I'm continuing to apply myself outside in a steady way. And I'm calling to the resources that can help me with the inside. In principle, there's different ways, but through sadhusanga. And a big part of sadhusanga is hearing. And being in the company, in the association of elevated persons, sadhus. And that's going to help me because I want it. Not that I'm ignoring it or talking it under the rug or depending, it's not pretending that it's not there. That's just kutinati. Just pretending. So if that's a stage to overcome. And I want sadhusanga so I can overcome that. So it depends. The answer to your question is it depends. It depends on what? Depends on your sincerity and your application of the principles that come along with sadhusanga, starting with hearing. How's that? I'm looking for the wrinkle in your forehead that says, I'm not really satisfied. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Over here?
So you mentioned that anarthas goes on up to the higher stages of bhakti. So is there any subtle signs that we know that anarthas are going away? Is there any way?
What are the characteristics of steadiness that you're looking for? The characteristics that bhakti has come to an advanced stage, in fact.
Right. So how do we know that we are progressing and we are getting rid of anarthas?
Okay, that's easy. Two things. Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So you know who he is. She's learning who he is. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur indicates two things. One, who's at the center? Pretty simple. And material is I'm at the center. And spiritual is the supreme source of everything is at the center. And in between is the mix. So how close, how much is it over on this side or over on that side? Who's at the center? Then there's a second criterion. The second criterion is the Trishna, the thirst for temporary is subsiding. And the thirst for Krishna is increasing. So asat Trishna is decreasing, Krishna Trishna is increasing. And that's a sign. Now, with unsteadiness, it can go up and down, like a sine curve, it can go up and down. So then what you do, what each of us should do, is how much is the amplitude of up and down? And is the axis moving, sloping upwards more towards the thirst for Krishna side, not just the amplitude?
One program to the first one you mentioned, like keep Krishna in center. So at my stage, sometimes like it happens, even though I want things for myself, but I pretend that this is Krishna's desire, I want it for Krishna. So is that okay to fake it till you make it, or you should be honest?
Well, it's not okay to fake it, but you should be honest, but you also don't want to, rub your nose in the mud. You want to turn your attention to Krishna, knowing that that's not really where my attention should be. I mean, it's not where my attention is, although it's where my attention should be. So I'm being introspective and thus honest with myself, but I want to move in that direction. So it's not pretense. It's a little bit like, because I've been doing this so much, this iceberg of culture thing. You familiar with that one? Okay. So behaviors impact values and values drive behaviors. So if my value is, this is something I value having a relationship that's closer to a loving one in relation to Krishna, where he's at the center. The reality is, I'm very much at the center. And it's not so much of the time I'm thinking Krishna's at the center. That's the reality. But so I'll work on the behavior side with the honesty. It's a little bit his question, the unsteadiness or shortcoming inside. I'm not there yet. But I'm acknowledging I'm not there yet, but let me strive. So the behavior will help me to strive, and it will help purify that value and strengthen the value. That's how bhakti life grows. It's an internal as well as an external, and there's an interplay between them. One, it impacts the other. Because I could just throw my hands up in the air and say, look, I'm going to be honest with myself and honest with everybody. I'm not there yet. So, que sera, sera. We follow the vidhis and we strive to come to that state where we thought we're not there yet. And that's practice. It's abhyasa. Okay. We're back to Murli Bhattacharya. Can you get the microphone to him? He's a senior citizen, so we bring the microphone to him. Look at his gray hairs.
We're talking about desiring things that are not spiritual, material. There's a nice outline. The final one was the 5 kinds of liberation. So I was a little confused, because my understanding is that 4 of those kinds of liberation, being on the same planet of the Lord, and the same form of the Lord, the same anarthas of the Lord, the companion of the Lord, those are spiritual. So how does that fit into the, not being attracted to this non-spiritual things.
Let's go to the verse that I quoted from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhukti mukti mukti siddhi kami sakle ashanta. The mind becomes ashanta or agitated, not peaceful, by that contemplation. So the center, back to her question, or the response to her question, who's at the center with these aspirations for liberation? Who's at the center?
And I would say, I want to have this in my life.
Well, that's different. Then it's bhakti. Then it's not, I want, for me. I'm not at the center. Bhakti is where Krishna is at the center. So where, to the degree that those attainments are all about me in my situation, it's material. Or it's, I'm at the center, consciousness. Is it clear? Okay. Anything else? I'm looking for the quiet ones because they're often some of the best questions back there. Put your hand up again. Yes, you, Ramcha. Slowly.
Sure. So then it's just feeling about all this, and once, and then all the explanation coming from feelings and values and all this explanation.
Yes.
So I feel like there's so much.
You're feeling overwhelmed. It's a science. So with science, there's details. And if you're not a scientist, you don't need the details. You just need the principle without the details. But once you start drilling on the principles, you're going to discover the details anyways. And our acharyas are helping us not to have you feel overwhelmed. But let's just say you're cleaning your house. You've done house cleaning, like a thorough. And when you start cleaning, you start seeing things you didn't notice before. And then when you start dealing with those things that you didn't notice before, you find some other things that you didn't notice before either. When you start getting into it, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be cleaned. And so this is the process of making the heart clean of unwanted things. And there's lots of things. So don't worry. You're not alone. You have lots of company. And it's standard stuff. So don't be intimidated by there's a lot of work to do, because there's a lot of work to do. How long have we been in the material world? Who can say? How many lifetimes? Who can say? Or as Borijan Prabhu puts it, supposing when you start to cleanse the mirror of the mind, and you start to do the cleansing, and you'll find, my God, there's 3 miles thick dust. What are you going to do? Put down your scrub brush and your cleaning agents. However long it takes, that's how long it takes. So don't be intimidated by how much stuff is caked on. You do what you can do step by step. And then as you go forward, you find, oh my God, all this other stuff, I didn't even know it was there. Maybe I just leave it. You can't, once you start, you can't stop. You can't just leave it. You get used to it, it's nice. Clean is nice. Very inviting, because what we want ultimately is the heart is so clean, Krishna wants to come and sit there. Now he's already there. It's not like he's there because you made it nice for him. But then we'll feel his presence by making it nice for him. And it's true. It's true. Revelation is given to those who are qualified to receive it. And those that aren't qualified to receive it don't get it because they're not qualified to receive it. So we have to become qualified. Whatever the price is, pay it. However long it takes, do it. Fortunately, mercifully, we're given a process that's very quick and very easy and very sublime. And still, we're a little complacent. That's unfortunate. But don't be intimidated. Oh. Reality is there's a lot of work to do. But here's a nice thing, out of many nice things. Faith, there's a nice definition, I'm sure you know what it is. According to Chaitanya Charitamrita, that's Lord Chaitanya teaching about chanting for our guest here. Faith means strong confidence that if I can achieve just one thing, this one thing, it's so powerful and so complete, then all other desirable things are accomplished. What's that one thing? Krishna Bhakti. And all other things are accomplished. All other things. Once with Prabhupada, this is Prabhupada speaking in New York. There's the blacksmith hammer and there's the goldsmith hammer. The goldsmith hammer has the little hammer. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, tap, tap. That's the goldsmith method. Bhakti is the blacksmith method. Put the metal into the fire, one stroke, thud, everything finished. And this is the process. What's that one thing? Awaken Bhakti. There's obstacles. Okay. Let me awaken Bhakti. Everything is accomplished. Okay, I think we'll end. You have something. Okay. Last question.
Manoj, what are the practical steps we can take when these unwanted things or thoughts come in the mind?
What do you do when thoughts come into mind?
Yes, what do you do?
Well, there's different things you can do. And a very nice teacher on what you do with thoughts that come into the mind is Bhakti Siddhanta. One of the messages, just neglect. Unless it's genuinely urgent, you just neglect it. It's like, here's a recommendation. I don't know what you do, but my recommendation is when you're chanting in the morning, turn your phone off. And if somebody has emergency, that's okay. They can have the emergency later because your phone is off. Because you're doing one thing. You're neglecting other things. Yes, you're neglecting other things because why? Then that's another, when it's so important. It's so important 3 times, so important that if I can just do this one thing, the other thing can be accomplished. And if I don't do this one thing, the other thing is going to mountain up like a big pile. I'm going to be feeling overwhelmed and stressed out and everything like that. So it's most important thing. Then another teaching that he gives, you've heard this one. I'm sure. In the morning, when you get up in the morning, beat the mind with a shoe 100 times. Metaphorical, you don't bang your head with a shoe. The mind. And at night with a broomstick, 100 times. Because what you think of at night is what you're going to think of when you wake up in the morning. Mind, please be submissive. To what? Submissive to the process of hearing. It's just, is it doable? It's doable. There are disciplines that are specifically to teach neglect of the extraneous thoughts within the mind. You've probably heard me talk about it. There are practices, there are disciplines, they're just for that. But if you focus on the positive, not the negative, the distracting things, then you've accomplished both. So cultivate for yourself, cultivate an understanding of what's on the other side of material distraction. And try to extend yourself to that place that's beyond material distraction. You know, the Param Drishtva Nivartate, you know the verse, the higher taste, and reach for that. There's so many things to say on that topic. Okay, I'm going to end. There's 2 questions online.
This is from Madhurya. So Maharaj, you were explaining that the unfurling
Not so loud.
of the leaves happen only when bhakti is performed. Unfurling of the leaves happen only when bhakti is performed.
I can't follow what you're saying.
Unfurling of the leaves happen only.
Unfurling of the leaves about?
Leaves happen when bhakti is performed. Does this happen even if bhakti is mixed with modes?
Yes. I'll repeat the question because it wasn't easy to follow the question. In the description of the beginning stages of bhakti, there are these 2 leaves that unfurl. And the question is, even if one is not pure, but still in the modes and doing bhakti, does it still take place if one is still in the modes? The answer is yes. Maybe a little slower, but it's there. Next.
Good Maharaj, you were explaining that in Bhajana Kriya, remembrance of Krishna is sporadic. And we also hear that most of the devotees are in the anartha nivritti state.
Yeah.
But it seems like we are still in the Bhajana Kriya only as remembrance has not progressed.
Only as what?
Only as remembrance has not progressed from being sporadic.
Okay. Welcome to the club. So now, how long does it take? It takes as long as it takes. That's how long it takes. And if you want it to go more swiftly, be more attentive. And keep good association. And try to be a good follower in all those nice things. But if you're complacent, then it's going to continue taking a long time. Or somewhere in between.
One last question. This is from Apurva Prabhu. Maharaj, how to get rid of Vidha Vikalpa
How to get rid of Vyudha Vikalpa.
and decide what is the best for me?
Oh, I know the story. The best way is purity. There's no substitute for purity. Say it negatively. Until there's purity, there's going to be Vyudha Vikalpa. So the best way is purity. to how to get purity. You recognize what the standard of trying to please Krishna is, and that becomes your focus. You move yourself out of the center and put Krishna at the center, and that's purity. I mean, it's same response to a previous question. Same response. And to the degree that Krishna is not yet at the center, you and anybody will experience the Vyuta Vikalpa ad infinitum. Uncertainty, vacillating between Sankalpa, Vikalpa. Okay, thank you all for coming. What's our concluding remarks?
Thank you, Maharaj, for coming and spending almost 2 hours with us.
2 hours. Woo!
And thank you for your lovely presentation of the office too. Taking lessons from I'd like to thank the devotees who came by, including Power to help with your deciding, Radha Prem, Yogeshwar, Aditi, Omarai, and all that those, I think I'm getting on to maybe, another thing doing the RT, thank you very much. I don't know what I can do without you, you know, whatever you did, so thank you very much. Thank you, Prem Kishore. He has been running my schedule as well for this program, his classes and everything like that. So thank you.